Hello and welcome
Hello.
to Liminal Writing.
Hello, Sas.
How are you, Lee?
Good. You're like oceans apart now.
I know I'm recording this from Manila, where I have been for the past few weeks.
I'm still in Toronto.
So what we decided to do today is we were going to go back to some old writing that we did a
Yeah.
couple of years ago. So we started doing this. What year did we start? 2021, 22?
2021.
Yeah, and then
One.
Lee and I would do this liminal writing where we would pick out a phrase or some lines and we would do 10 minutes time writing and we'd read it to each other and process a bit, whatever comes out. But
Hey.
after we presented to some friends a compilation of some of our writing in late 2023, we then decided to start recording the conversations. What we thought would be good is we'd pick out some of the old work and then read it fresh because we've not gone back to them before. And then we'd process with you as we record.
So when we decided to do that today, I was looking for my piece and then says that, wait, stop, don't read it now. It's like, keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do. We try to keep it as fresh, even for ourselves.
And more spontaneous. Okay, let's go. And as
You
per
go first.
usual,
Take
Lee
the
makes
first.
me dive in first. All right. My thoughts on death. That was the trigger line, I think. And it also says, what does it mean for me to exit this earth? So here's what I wrote. As Lee and I said to each other, this is probably a good topic to write about on this Good Friday. So we must have written a couple of years ago. Okay, what are my thoughts on death? My mind shifts around about this, and at this very moment, it is still and calm about the thought. It feels real as a notion and reality, but it also feels distant. But there are times it also feels to my face, death, that is. Just an hour ago, while watching one of those crime mystery series that Hector often puts on TV, there was a scene with policemen recovering a dead body. I asked him if he'd ever seen a dead body, and he said yes, he had seen them a number of times in the river, in a mortuary, etc. I asked where, and he said, in Nottingham, he answered. What, just floating there? And he goes, yep. I thought to myself how the image of Queng, my friend, dying on a hospital bed and later of her lifeless body, still warm and eyes still open, remains ingrained in my memory bank. Is death a friend or is death an enemy? Is it a gift, perhaps? I hope that when I do exit this earth, it will be a peaceful one. Like those movie endings that zoom out to blue skies and bluer lakes that shimmer with reflected sunshine. And so quiet a scene that silence is almost like the softest of lullabies that rock your soul to the most tranquil of sleeps. Your turn, Lee.
All right, my turn. My thoughts on death, or what does it mean for me to exit this earth? On a certain Friday, centuries ago, from a man named Jesus, pillared and vilified for beliefs that went against the Sanhedrin, dragged across the village to a mound where a cross awaited for his body to be nailed and hung. Then the sweet release from his earthly bind. Days before this Good Friday, centuries away from his passing, someone I knew from church decided to go when he felt it was time, past all his challenges and ailments. The past years were dedicated to the rebuilding of a church he so loved. Despite all hurts and hardships, he mustered forward to live to see the light shine through the clerestories. He saw the church come alive once more with people, with music, and with much gratitude. Then his work was done. He knocked on death's door and stepped through. Oh, I remember this. This is about
I
Mark
think, yes.
Asselin.
I was gonna say that was your friend who wrote a book, right?
And you bought the book.
I did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mark was the facilities manager of
The
the
church.
Metropolitan Community Church of Toronto.
Can you
And
tell us a bit about
he
that? And yeah, what were your thoughts at the time? Or even now?
he was a key figure in the way that we were rebuilding the church. So MCCT was given a grant, and included in the grant was like a budget set aside for the rebuilding certain areas of the church,
Mm.
particularly the social hall, the kitchen, parts of the sanctuary. And Mark was the one, he was so good at project managing and managing budgets and managing relationships with all the suppliers and contractors. He considered this his last act of service to the church that he so loved. He was quite ill already towards, the last months of his life. And so he asked that there be a gathering, a celebration. And so with the church leadership, there was a celebration that he was still there, right? So it wasn't a celebration of his life that he already passed. He was there so that he got to hear how people appreciated him. And because in Canada, we have a very long process called MAID, which is the medical assisted dying process. And
So it's legal
Mark,
is the dying
it
in Canada.
it is, it is.
Wow, that's
So
so
it was a
different.
way for him to choose
Wow.
because he was very ill, so to prolong that. But it for
Wow.
the process to be legal here, there's a lot of things
Yeah,
that need
yeah, yeah.
a lot of checks
It's very much
in place, right?
regulated. Yeah,
Very
yeah.
much so.
Wow.
Just to go back to the writing of
Yeah.
this, you talked about a friend, Queng, right?
Yes.
I remember it was just like a couple of weeks back. You
Yeah.
mentioned also Queng.
Did
I
I?
don't remember now what we
Oh,
were talking
wow.
about, and you mentioned her name in this piece that you chose.
Really? That's so amazing. I think it's her
Yeah.
birthday. So that was really profound for me. Quang was someone I considered family. I mentored her in her career. She was very much by my side. I had a career in events management and production, and I mentored her from her first job out of college. Later on, she became a production manager and all that.
Yeah.
So at the same time, she was also writing companion. I was doing similar using the wild mind technique of Natalie Goldberg
Yeah.
with mostly the young women who were working with me and
Yeah.
who I knew had some creative energies in them. And I would do even one-on-one with kind of write together. So she was one of those.
Yeah.
I happened to be home a number of times when she was ill at a
Mm.
young age. She had cancer, which was already metastasized by the time it was discovered. I was here during crucial parts of her illness, which was less than a year. She passed away. So that was my first experience, and it was quite profound. I was there while the family was still in shock and dealing with the death. She was still there, her body still warm.
Mm.
I took on the event manager part of it. I
Mm.
made it take over.
Yeah.
And I was guiding her sister to sign the death certificate, even while she was in tears. I was kind of almost literally guiding the hand, or the other
Mm.
sister trying to instruct her to close the eyes and how to do it, stuff like that. But it's really stayed on with me in a profound way. It's something that really left a mark as an experience
Mm. Yeah.
and made death such a real thing to
Yeah.
me. Yeah, so I guess that's why I mentioned it there. As I said, I think it remains ingrained in my memory bank. Whole day of her last day, where I was kind of even guiding the family to say their farewells to her, because the
Yeah.
doctors were essentially saying it was just the machines now, and
Keeping her.
essentially clinically already considered almost dead.
Gone.
So
Mm.
guiding her mom to say goodbye and accept. I was
Mm.
in that role the whole day, and I can't even imagine where I got that kind of in me.
Yeah. Yeah.
At that time, I just kind of did this automatic taking over that way of mine.
Mm. Well, was what the family needed, right?
I played my role. That was my gift to her, I guess. And I'm happy that I was able to kind of offer that to her when I think about my own death. I hope it's that kind of perfect cinema perfect ending where the effects come out and then it's blue skies
Oh.
and you enter the light, whatever. But I'm sure it will be more dramatic for those I leave behind, but I guess I take comfort in kind of whipping up that image in my brain.
So you posed a question in your work. You said, is death a friend or a foe? How do you look upon it now?
I think it can be all of that.
Mhm.
Because sometimes you
Yeah.
see it as something taken away from us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
sometimes when you think about it, can be a gift in many other ways, depending how you experience it and how you choose to experience it. It could
Mm.
bring you to a more evolved state
Yeah.
and give you a more insightful way of looking at life, or even gratitude if you must,
Mm.
or just
Yeah.
resilience, whatever. I'm sure there's some, I'm the one for silver lining, so maybe yeah, there's something.
For me, when we talk about this, there's this TV series called American Gods. They have episodes on gods from different civilizations, Egyptian, Chinese. And there's this one scene that I remember. It was an Egyptian god that brings people to the next. He holds out their hand and says, "That's your threshold." So I'm just seeing that scene of the way he acted, that death is a guide for spirits. So it's not the actual being that takes you away, but guides you through the doors for you to
Right.
pass through. I think there was a helpful way, in the way that it is not supposed to be frightening. At least
Mhm.
that's how it comes across. So the actor who plays Anubis in the series has a very calm
Mhm.
voice, and he doesn't sugarcoat it. There's a scene where a woman
Mm.
opens the door. She thinks, "Oh, you're here for the family upstairs because I'm Muslim." And then she says, "No, Mrs. Fadil, I'm here for you." She looks down and sees her body. She says, "Is that me?" He comforts her. Then she says, "But I just made food for my
Oh,
family. They'll see me that way."
yeah.
Death, in a way of comforting, goes to the kitchen stove, dips his hand in the pots, and says, "It is perfect. They will love."
Oh,
And then says, "Your family will
wow.
be okay. In a year's time, your son will get married." So kind of tells her, this is the future of your family after you pass away. So I kind of like, oh my God, that's a beautiful way of showing, yes, death is a part of
Yeah.
our cycle.
And
So,
also, it can come in many ways, and sometimes it just
mm,
comes in
like,
unexpected ways, in the middle of a simple act of an
mhm,
ordinary routine day. And we've seen it happening, especially in our age group. It's
yeah,
happening more often that, suddenly
mm,
someone who's even athletic and is in the middle of a cycling, whatever,
yeah,
in a gym. Then, of course, some of our friends who've unfortunately also passed away of cancer,
or
COVID when it happened.
yeah,
Just reminders of our mortality. That's what Lee and I had brought us to these thoughts on death and what does it mean for us to exit this earth. If you wanna give it a try, I know it's hard for a lot of us to even think of death. Might be a good exercise if you are up to it. Do feel free to try and do some writing of your own. And you
yeah,
can borrow this line, what are my thoughts on death? And then go for 10 minutes writing and see what comes out.
yeah,
And share with us if you are keen to. We'd be happy to hear too.
yeah. Thank you, folks. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye for now.